Hi there, my name's Vince from mymatevince.com, and in this video today it is week 5 of the eBay repair challenge between myself, Tronics Fix, Tamper Tech and the Retro Future. So this is the last week and we can choose any item that we want. So on week 4 I did this vintage 2XL robot and I had it up for £60. Unfortunately I didn't get £60 for it, but I did get £50, so I'm more than happy with that. Had quite a few offers on it actually, but a lot of them were very, very low. I had one very good offer, but it was from a different country and I didn't want to get involved with the hassles of posting abroad. So yeah, with this one I think I was offered, I think it was £40 or £45. I asked them if they could up it to 50, which they did, and yeah, that is it. So I got £50 for it. So there's definitely a profit on it, but again, not a huge amount once you take into account fees and stuff. So now let's move on to week 5 item, and let's see if we can turn a profit on this one. Okay, so let's open this up. And there we have it. The games have given it away. So I have here an original Xbox. So I'm looking forward to checking this one out. Now I bought this from my friend Danny, who sells me stuff on eBay, but it is for the going rate. So basically with this one here, sometimes he does give me a discount, but with this one I just paid the actual eBay listed price, so anybody could have bought it. But when he lists something that he thinks I might be interested in, he just sends me a quick eBay message, and then I check it out, and if I am interested in it, then I buy it. He sort of knows the stuff that I like to do. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing this one because it's got an interesting fault with it. Basically the fault is that the player 1 and 2 controller ports don't work. So 3 and 4 work, but ports 1 and 2 don't. Okay, so here we have it. So you can see it does need a little bit of a clean up, but that'd be quite nice. Most of that will hopefully be just dust and dirt. So it's these 2 ports that don't work, but these 2 do. So immediately what I'm thinking is it possible to swap over the connections between here and here to then see if these 2 liven up, and then that will give us an idea if it's the ports, for example the wires or however they're attached, or is it going to be the motherboard. So let me show you what I paid for this. So I paid £25 and the write-up is Xbox original console working but has minor faults. Console boots and reads games absolutely fine but has some issues. The first one being that the controller ports 1 and 2 won't work, but 3 and 4 work fine. Also the AV lead is faulty as it provides audio but no video. I recommend a new one or for the current one to be fixed. Now when it comes to the AV lead, I might not waste my time with that. I will have spare ones around the place and you can get them for like a few pounds. They're not expensive at all, but I will have a look at it just in case there's anything obvious. But when I'm selling this on, people probably don't want to have an AV lead where it's all taped up and stuff like that. So let's get this connected up to a TV and see exactly what's see exactly what's happening with this port 1 and 2. Right, apologies for the weird angle. Now this is quite strange. If you have a look at this now, at the moment I'm just using my cable to connect it to the TV, and I'm in controller port 1. And if you have a look, can you see it's not moving? Yeah. Right, so this is what Danny would have done, and then put it into the next one. And now, can you see it's moving? Yeah? So then you think it's controller 1, which is controller port 1, which is faulty. If I put it into number 3, it's also moving. Hopefully you can hear, you can see it counting down there. And controller port 4. Yeah? So that says to me that controller port 1 is faulty. But now watch. If I get this controller here, the other controller, and plug it into controller port 1, you will see that it is actually working. So let me go over here. Yeah, so I've been wiggling it around, and basically I think it's all to do with just dirty contacts, because now if I put the first controller back in again, you can see it's now working. But if I take it out and do it again, sometimes it won't work, so it'll probably do it every single time now. Right, let's give it a wiggle up. There we go. Right, so when I push it up, can you see now it's lost connection, it's not doing anything at all. And yet when I push it down, hold on now, give it a wiggle. There we go. There. It's working again. So I think it all just needs a good clean. And looking closely at it, I'm not sure if this has been stored outside, because have a look in here. Look at the rust in there. That should all be nice and shiny and silver. And also, if you have a look round here, this side, to begin with, we have a huge amount of rust here. And again, if you look on the inside, it's all rusted, yeah? So in between these grills here should be nice and clean. You can see the odd bit which is shiny, but the rest is just dull. So I think with this one, I think it just needs to be taken apart and given a really, really good clean. Now I'm just going to check the AV lead just to confirm that it is also not working. I'm wondering whether again it is dirt, because if you have a look at this, again it looks all kind of slightly corroded and like messy and stuff. So I'm just going to test out this lead now. Okay, so I'm on the dodgy lead now and I'm in port 1 here, and as you can see it is displaying up there. And I can hear sound as well. So again, I think everything just needs a really, really good clean. I would say that this has been stored maybe up in an attic with a lot of condensation and dampness has got into it and corroded things. Or, I don't know, maybe even it's been dumped outside or something and somebody's picked it up. I really don't know. Let's just see if this tray's working. Yeah, that's working. So let's give this thing, let's take it apart. Now this is going to be fun for me because I've never taken it apart before. And we'll have a look, see what the inside looks like. Right, so all I'm going to be doing is taking it apart and giving it a really good clean. Now just to show you what a clean Xbox, well, this is my one. It's not even clean, but if you have a look, this is what it should look on the inside. Can you see it's all nice and silver? Yeah, and that's on both sides as well, like the shielding on the inside, yeah? So, this is never going to look very good because you'll see it more when I take it apart. But I just hope the corrosion is just kind of on the outer shield and hasn't gone through to absolutely everything. So really now, it's just going to be a case of fast forwarding through most of this. To take it apart, because Danny already told me in the messages, he said that you need a Torx bit and you have to take off these rubber feet here. So let's do that. Let's pop off these rubber feet, have a look at the Torx, and then just dismantle the whole thing. I'm going to clean everything. The ports here, I'm going to clean the controllers, I'm going to clean the controller ports, because again, you can see corrosion. You can see corrosion on there as well. So I just need to give everything a really good clean, because I think it's just making intermittent contacts. As well with the AV lead, you get the idea of what I'm going to be doing now. Right, it looks like the T20 fits this one. Feels a little bit loose, but hopefully it will do. Yeah, nice and easy. That's it, now it's coming off nice and easy. Right, okay. There we go, you can see all the rust in that corner there. Wow. Just all down this corner here. This is going to take quite a lot of cleaning. Right, so I've got the disk drive and the hard drive out, so now I can start to clean the plastic around them. Make it a lot easier now to clean all that. Right, and now I've got this rusty shield out, so I can give this all a good clean. And as well, I can clean all this up. Controller ports, so they would be very easy to swap over if you've ever damaged the pins in there. It's just a case of 2 screws and undoing that connector there. Really nice and simple. So what I can do is I can get the IPA in here and give it all a clean. You can see how dirty and horrible it is. Right, so here we have the power supply here. So I can just basically get rid of all the dust from that, get some canned air on that.
that is the main motherboard, and again you can see how dusty it is. Should there be a clamp on that one as well? Because there's like a clamp on this one, but I can't see one on here. I presume this is where the CPU and the GPU are, so you know, like the graphics card and the main brain. I wonder whether, look, it looks like this is like a clamp. Mind you, this is different. No, it's not different, is it? Yeah, I'm wondering if there should have also originally been one on here to keep that down. Not sure. Right, I'll give it a clean up. What I could maybe go online just to see whether you're supposed to change the thermal paste on these or not. Right, you can see all the rust in here now. There we go. Now I can give that a real good scrub as well. Right, that is all of it in bits. So now I can put all the plastic bits in the shower and hose it all down and give it a really good scrub with a toothbrush without worrying about causing any more rust anywhere. But you can see all the mess of the mat here. There's just dirt and rust and stuff and everything. Also look at my gloves as well. So I'm really glad I took this apart, and first impressions of it, I've never done this before, not one part broke. This is put together really well. I would have said that I would think that a lot of money was spent on the design of this. So yeah, good job. Right, okay, next time you see this, hopefully it will be a bit cleaner. Using the toothbrush and the cotton buds, scraping it all around the place, and it doesn't really come across in the camera, but the colour of that water is disgusting. So now I'm going to dry this all up and I'm going to sand back the metal shields to try to get rid of some of that surface rust. Right, you can see now that the rust is starting to come off. Okay, so I've finished that now. It has come up a lot better. Obviously it's never going to be anything like new, but if you have a look now, hopefully when you look through there it won't be quite so dark. There will still be a little bit of a shine to it. So now what I have to do is clean all the circuit board and all the controller ports and stuff with IPA, make them nice and clean again. I'm really going to concentrate on these ports now, just in case these pins are ever so slightly corroded. I'll just measure with my multimeter across that massive capacitor, just in case there was any energy left in it, this one here. And it appears to be empty. But I'm still going to take care when I'm working on that power board. Right, now I will be cleaning up the controllers just with basically a wet wipe. I'm not going to be taking them apart, but I am going to be cleaning the contacts here with the IPA. Okay, that's everything clean with IPA. Now what I need to do is I need to start putting it back together, and for example the fan and stuff I'm just going to be cleaning with some you know, wet wipes, getting rid of all that, and then at the end I'm going to give it all a nice clean with some plastic polish. Well, I've looked online and most people do recommend to change your thermal paste purely because of the age of the Xbox, and also apparently the paste that they put on there to begin with was not very good at all. So what I'm going to do is they recommend to turn the Xbox on until the chips heat up, and then you can remove the heat sinks. But for me it's all in bits, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just use my hot air station and I'm physically going to heat it up. Now I don't want to melt these clips, so I'm going to undo the clips to begin with and then heat up the heat sinks, and that then should do the opposite. It should be putting the heat from here into the chip, and then hopefully I will be able to remove it. Right, okay, they were very, very hard to clean, but also quite satisfying as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get some more Q-tips, cotton buds, and I'm just going to go over it one more time just to make sure it's nice and clean, and then we're going to apply some new thermal paste. Now there's still some old thermal paste left around the chip itself. That's kind of acting like a kind of underfill. I don't really want to scrape that too much. I mean, I was giving it a good rub and it doesn't seem to want to be removing, so I'm not too sure if it's a little bit of glue as well as thermal paste. But the way I look at it is, as long as the new thermal paste is on the top and as long as this old thermal paste is not above the level of the chip, then really it shouldn't make a difference, should it? Because it's a chip that's getting hot, and as long as the new thermal paste is between the chip and here, then what difference will it make if there's just a tiny little bit left around the edges? Right, okay, so that is just a very thin layer on each of them. Put a little bit too much on, but I've got a bit of waste there. So now when I put the weight on there, it's going to spread over onto the edges, but that's not going to cause any problem. I just want to make sure that I've got a complete coverage on the actual chip. Right, so push this down onto it. Now we need to put the clamps back on. So I remember now that this was facing this way, and then on the other one, the big one was facing down that way. And they go on very easy actually. Right, let's push that down now and clamp it securely. Right, okay, hopefully that will be at least the same as before, if not better. So now I've got to put everything back together, and what I'm going to do is give everything the final clean. I need to clean up the controllers and everything, and then give it all a good polish at the end. Back on now, and to me it looks like a different console as far as this part's concerned anyway. And now I'm going to polish it up using some of this plastic polish, and it's just supposed to remove tiny little scratches as well. Actually, when I say remove, that's not strictly true. I think it's more like it fills in the scratches so that the light doesn't catch on them quite so much. So happy with how that has come out. It looks as good as my one now. Look at that. And even when you look in there, yes, it's not shiny, but it just looks, it kind of looks like a nice finish. Looks like a brushed finish. I'm really, really happy with how that's come out, because this was in quite a state. And new thermal paste as well. Well happy with that. So now I have to clean up the controllers and also the AV cable, and then we can do a final test. Right, so that's the lead now, and it's come up lovely and clean, so hopefully that should work fine well into the future. There's the controller looking nice and clean again. The thumbstick here is damaged, but it's still more than playable. It's just the bottom bit there which is ripped off. So I don't think it's that big a deal. That's the other controller now. Again, damage to the thumbstick there, but it feels pretty good. I don't think it warrants changing them over, especially not for the price that they're worth. You know, if these were worth like £30, then definitely swap it over. But when you can pick them up for a few pounds, then it's not worth spending a whole huge amount of money on it. Right, so now what I've got to do is give it a good test, make sure that everything's working, make sure the discs are working and stuff, and then I'll show you a game working at the end. Right, I've also cleaned up the belt as well that does the disc tray in and out, so it already worked perfectly beforehand, but it was quite dusty, so I've just cleaned that up again. Now if you are having trouble with it, it's really easy to do. So either keep ejecting it until eventually it does come out, or if it's gone completely, then what you can do is, if you have a look here, there's a tiny little hole just here. And then you can use a paper clip into that hole to manually eject it, and then once it's ejected, then you can pull it out and either use some tweezers to take it out and clean it, or if you think it's about to break or broken completely, just remove it and then get the new one, and you can just hook it between two wheels in there. It's quite easy to do. Right, let's get on with the testing. Okay, so I'm trying to set it up and I've run into problems, the same problem that was happening when it was sold. Now I think I've worked out what it is, so check this out. I've got this controller into port 1 and this controller into port 2. Now if I go back up to here, you can see that port 1 is working, so when I go across you can see it's moving. Yeah? But now port 2 is not working. You can see it doesn't do anything, and if I unplug port 1, port 2 still doesn't do anything. Yeah? So it would make you think that it's actually the port, but check this out. Let me just plug in number 1 again. You can see that that's still working. Yeah. Now if I use a different controller, so let's unplug this controller here and let's use this controller here, which is my one, you will now see that up on the screen it will actually change the digits. So it's not the port, it's the controller, and more interestingly still, it's not the controller, it's just the plug at the beginning. So watch this now. If I unplug that one and get this suspect controller, take this end bit off and then plug it into here. This is like a breakaway that they do, so if you trip over it, it just pulls from here rather than pulling the whole console off the shelf. Now watch. Can you see it's now working? So basically it's just the end bit that is faulty. Weird thing is, sometimes I can swap it and then sometimes the end bit will work, and that's what was throwing me, but more often than not it doesn't work. So now if you watch this, if I get my good controller here, which I know is a good controller, and if I plug it into this one here, which is the faulty end bit, and plug it into here, then sometimes it will work, but more often than not it will not. So right now it is working. Okay, now let's plug in the controller I got from Danny. And now you see it's not working, yeah? And now let's unplug the end bit and plug in this one here. plug that in there and have a look up here. You will see it's working again. Yeah. So there's definitely something suspect with that end bit, but not all the time, and that's what's so confusing. It's like an intermittent fault. So what I'm going to do is I am going to clean up these bits on the outside. You can see there's like rust patches on the outside, just in case it's this kind of ground thing here which is stopping it from working, and I'll see if that makes any difference. Right, okay, so what I did is I just got a fiberglass pen and I scraped it along here, but you can still see there is rust up there. And then I got some of this Deoxit and I placed it inside and also on top here. And now it is working. Yeah, it's working fine now. Just try plugging in another one. Yes, that's fine. I'm going to try plugging in all three just in case it's some issue with the more that you plug in, the worse it gets. Yeah, that's working fine. Right, so I'm going to do some more testing. In fact, I'm going to get another controller down and plug in 4, and then if there is some issue with like the chip that controls these, then maybe by plugging in more it's going to put it under strain and stop it from working. Okay, everything's working really well. I've just plugged in a network cable and it is connecting, but obviously Xbox Live is not found because that was turned off, I think, back in 2010 or so. So I'm just going to start playing the game now. Right, we've just been playing a bit of 2005 FIFA and it's working absolutely fine. And considering that this is just on normal AV, normal composite, the yellow, white and red, the graphics are actually pretty good. I haven't played this game before on the Xbox. But yeah, of course it's not as good as the 360 or the Xbox One, but it is still more than playable. So yeah, I think if this was on component, then it should look better again. Right, so what I'll have to do now is I'll have to get this all boxed up and ready for sale, and then we'll see what we can get for it. If I'm honest with you, I think it's going to be unlikely that I'm going to make any money on this at all by the time you take into account postage. But for me, I really enjoy taking this one apart. I think it's lovely on the inside, really well made, and I would definitely like to do more again in future. So all I had to do really here was completely clean it up and change the thermal paste, and also just mess around with that little lead from the controller, so it really wasn't anything major, but still it was a very, very dirty console. And now the thing is absolutely, well, it's not immaculate, but it is very, very clean. I think anybody would be happy with it. So that is it. If me or my son gets any good goals, I will just quickly film that. But next time you'll see this, you will see what it's going to go for sale for. Right, my son's just very proud of this goal, so I just want to show you this. So check this out, look. He's Arsenal. Watch this now. There. Couple of touches. Check this. Ready? Here it comes. And boom! Look at that. Now that is a pretty good goal. Right, now I'm going to get this thing sold. So I listed on eBay for just under 45 UK pounds and it's sold. It took just over a week to sell and there was very, very little interest in it. But still, it's sold. There's not going to be much profit on that by the time you take out all the fees, but it still definitely is a profit. So that is it for this particular eBay challenge. Now next week we will be doing the results, you know, seeing how much we actually made or quite possibly lost, and then finding out of the 4 of us who is the overall winner. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and check out next week's video where we will find out who is the champion of the eBay Repair Challenge, the 3rd series. Take care. Bye now.